Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Popco the Writers. We are back for another fun conversation about the latest pop culture affectations and whatnot. And yeah, I'm just throwing words out there now. I'm going to start doing the
It's your
whole.
professional raconteur.
That's right, professional raconteur. Going to start doing the glass onion thing of just making up words.
Coining words. You're going
Coining,
to
there you
coin
go, coining
words,
words.
not make
That's
up.
right.
Coin.
Yeah.
That sounds
As
better.
opposed to Bitcoining words, which just means to put them in the ether and let him die. So, with us again is Jim Beard, my co-host, who is doing a new podcast. We'll go ahead and mention that. You are from. I remember talking to you, and you not really having watched Doctor Who, and now you're doing a Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, and it's all because I pretty much finished watching Ultraman.
And you needed something new to watch.
And I needed to fill that gigantic hole in my life. And I said, okay, what can I do? What would be a good long-term, television show project that I can dive into? And I said, okay, well, the British equivalent to Ultraman is Doctor Who. So I mentioned to my buddy, John S. Drew, who's a big Doctor Who fan and has been, decades and knows all of it and all that stuff. And and I was telling him about it, and I said, I really barely watched Doctor Who. I watched the Christopher Eccleston season, and I think I watched about half of that old man that came a little bit after him, whose name I always forget.
Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, that guy. I watched about half of that, and I said, but I never really watched any of that original, stuff at all, and I said, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to dive in and I'm going to start from the beginning because my OCD said I have to start from the beginning. William Hartnell and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, because he's Mr. Podcast. He has about like 36 different podcasts he does. Probably the most well-known is the Batcave podcast. And he and I have done podcasts about the Batman serials of the 40s and the Green Hornet TV series, and I've done a lot of Batman ones with him. And he just says, "Oh, well, let's make a podcast out of that your Doctor Who journey." And I said, "Great." So our hook is that he is a dedicated Whovian, and I'm an ignorant Nuvian, and we started from the beginning. And what we're doing is every episode of our podcast is a different storyline,
right.
Or serial, as they call it.
Yeah.
And so we've done 4. We just did Marco Polo, which is the first of the Lost, episodes. Yeah. So I watched it off of YouTube where they have the so-called telesnaps. And a little bit of sometimes they move the pictures around, but it's got the entire soundtrack, of course. And so that was really interesting, challenging.
Oh yeah.
To try to judge it only on the storyline and nothing else, but we're having a good time. I just watched, literally just watched the 3rd part of the Keys of Marinus, and we release an episode every Saturday. We have a great Facebook page. Oh, the name of it is, and I didn't name this, the Doctor's Beard Podcast. John tells me that's a good title. I'm not convinced of that yet, but I have a feeling it's some kind of slam against me. But
well, because I don't know that the Doctor ever had a beard in any of his inclinations.
Well, I think there's a more of a meta meaning to it. He just goes, I got it. The Doctor's Beard Podcast. He didn't even ask my opinion or anything.
I guess technically the War Doctor has a beard.
Yes, I think that's correct. So
yeah.
No, it's not supposed to be literal. I said, John, you do realize in slang what the term beard means, right? He goes, oh yeah, right. He goes, no, it works. Believe me, it works. It works great. So, but we're having a really good time, and I think a lot of the cool thing about the podcast is our witty, back and forth, and it's fun because I start off by saying, "What is this? What is that?" and he has to answer me. So
that's cool. I'm glad you're getting into it, and
yeah,
I'll
so
have to check.
we need, this is our early days, and we're already, doing fairly well. In fact, we just found out that we're number 3 in our category in Belgium. Yeah, like
Good.
it's like TV and reviews category. Our podcast is number 3 in Belgium. It's like number
Nice.
81 in the United States in that category. But so we're really asking everybody, jump over to our Facebook page and like that and subscribe. The podcast is wherever you find podcasts. It's all over the place, Apple and iHeartRadio and all those different ones. And we're only 4 episodes in, so you can jump on board and get up to speed soon and join us on this journey. From the very beginning, we're going to do absolutely as much as possible, as long as we can find something of those lost ones. From what I understand, the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, I think, is it? Yeah.
Yes, Patrick Troughton.
There's a lot of lost episodes. I mean, a ton of them.
Yeah.
It's such a sad story, and it's so sporadic of what they wiped the tape.
And it's not like with London After Midnight, where there was a giant fire, and it's the BBC just didn't care. They didn't realize that anybody would want to see them, so they just recorded over them.
Yeah. The weird thing is that it's kind of haphazard. It's like, it's not like a whole bunch of them from the beginning or anything. It's like this one, and then you get a couple of complete serials, and then this one, and then there's serials where like you have episodes 1, 2, 3, but not 4, and then you have 5, but not 6.
Well, a lot of the ones that were recovered, others were lost, but they were recovered because they were found in like Australia or overseas in different
or something like that.
In different countries, because they aired there once and then got put away. And
so really fascinating. I'm already having a good time, and we're asking everybody to join in with us and travel along in the TARDIS with us.
Very nice. I will have to check that out. All right, let's get to our stories tonight, or what we're going to cover. We're going to cover 2 things tonight. I know it took me a long time, but I finally got around to seeing Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, because it popped up on Disney Plus.
This is the big one, Elizabeth. I'm coming to join you, honey.
Wow, Red Fox. And then we're going to talk about all the DC announcements. Hey, Dre, how you doing? So let's first talk about Black Panther, because you've been wanting to talk about this.
In terms of DC, as they say, we're going to need a bigger podcast. Yes, Wakanda Forever. I saw it twice in the theater.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to give my basic thought on this.
Please.
I think it was a Herculean task done as well as could be expected. It's not a perfect movie.
No.
There are problems with it. I think it tried to serve way too many masters, tried to do way too many things, and I think they could have used to pare it down some, both in length and also in story, in that amount of subplots. That said, I think, again, there was no way this was going to be easy. They had to honor Chadwick Boseman's passing. They had to honor T'Challa as a character. They had to move the story forward. They had to let these people grieve, because that's something we skip over a lot of times. And they're not in, people talk about what phase 4 was.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that moment to catch your breath and grieve. That's what the characters are doing. And we saw it in WandaVision. We saw it in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, it's been prevalent throughout phase 4.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is kind of the end of that, and it being the end of phase 4. Though I'm not they say this was the end of Phase 4, and Ant-Man's the start of Phase 5. But then, what do you count the Christmas special, because that came in between? But anyway.
I haven't really looked to see officially what or at least what Wikipedia says it is. If I'm not mistaken, I think from what I saw, it might have been lumped in with 4, or maybe it's its own thing too.
It's probably part of 4, because I know Feige has been big about saying that Ant-Man starts Phase 5.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
so,
mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I mean, like I said, I think there was some issues. I think the changes they made to Namor made a lot of sense. I mean, if you're a traditionalist and you want Namor to be Namor, you ain't gonna love this. But the fact that they're trying to make it match better into Wakanda and the history that they've created there,
mm-hmm.
and B, you're also bringing a character to life that very few people know when you look at the general populace.
Yeah.
And his origin is identical to Aquaman, even though he was first.
Yeah.
He's not first to the big screen, and that would hurt them.
Yeah.
So to make the changes they did, I think was smart.
Yeah.
And I think they made it work.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought that he came across as intelligent and loyal to his people. I mean, the good qualities we see of Namor. Yes, he can be evil and do things, but when he does those things, he's doing them for his people.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did that well.
Yeah, so that follows over from the comics. That's pretty much Namor's always been, Atlantis first.
Yeah. And I thought the origin change and stuff, again, was necessary and worked about as well as they could make it work. I thought Riri Williams was kind of a wasted character. I had no problem with her or how they portrayed her, but it feels like she was kind of jammed into the piece. Like maybe because I was reading that they did cut a lot of her stuff, and I think they cut so much. They made her a bigger part of defeating Namor, which she wasn't in the original script. But I think they took away so much that it really didn't make sense for her to be there.
Well, okay, imagine yourself in the planning sessions for Wakanda Forever, and why do you think that they said that was the place to introduce her?
I think it was more so maybe the storyline they had planned for her to show the camaraderie between her and Shuri, and to have somebody there to contrast Shuri, because Shuri has changed a lot. She's not the lighthearted scientist that she was in the first one. She's now the grieving person who has gone through so much. So to have Riri there is, in a sense, instead of having to show what Shuri used to be like, we're reminded through Riri.
Okay.
So I think she was there in a way to help show her character, Shuri's character arc a little better. But I think there was supposed to be more between the two of them, according to the director. And the fact that it got cut, I think hurts what they were trying to do there. Again, I think it's a good movie.
Well,
but that's one of the things that stood out to me.
Yeah.
Also, the character of the new Dora Milaje character, who becomes the other Midnight Angel along with Okoye.
Yeah.
She's involved with Ao.
Yeah.
She's another one that feels like she was just kind of wedged in there.
I wonder if that's sort of more of a setup for this supposed Wakanda TV series.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
is.
I think what you might be suggesting maybe is that instead of being organic as far as Riri goes and the Midnight Angels, basically, that maybe some of the mechanics of we want to introduce these characters because they're getting their own TV series shows a little bit more than what they mean it to show, and it really should be more organic. It's funny you bring up Riri, and I almost said, "Oh, right, yeah, she was in that." I didn't have any problem at all, really, with her being in there, but in the end, it's just sort of forgettable. Like
Yeah,
if you took her out of the movie, would it really make that big of a
yeah.
of
That's my
difference?
exact point.
I sat next to a young lady, and I don't know how old she was. She's younger than me, so I get to call her a young lady, who went absolutely bonkers during all the Riri stuff. And it was funny because it wasn't necessarily distracting. I was almost kind of in like maybe sort of like enjoying it vicariously through her, but she was totally there for the Riri Williams stuff and just was shouting and screaming and woo woo, at the screen, and it was kind of fun. But I
Yeah,
thought, well, you know what? This character has its fans.
they do. And I think that's what's interesting is I think for you and I, at least I know for me, I'm old school. I love seeing, I want Black Panther. I want
Mm-hmm,
Tony Stark as Iron Man. I want those characters because I grew up with those characters,
mm-hmm.
and they were the characters from when I was a kid. The first comic I picked up, Steve Rogers was Captain America, Sam Wilson was the Falcon. That was the very first comic I ever read.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the characters I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know Sam becomes Captain America. I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me who's Captain America, it's Steve Rogers.
Sure.
But there are younger people who, for them, it's a balance. It's who's Captain America? Well, it was Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes
Yeah, they're gonna
and
run through
Sam
this.
Wilson,
Yeah.
and or who's Spider Man? Oh, it's Miles Morales. It's like
Yeah. It depends on who you ask and who they are. So just kind of backtracking a little bit. You were good with the overall solution to the absence of Chadwick Boseman / the absence of the character of T'Challa.
I think
And
I
that,
think
and I'm
they
not trying
did
to be confrontational with that. I'm really, serious about that. Were you overall happy with that solution?
mostly. I don't see how they could have done it better
Mm-hmm. I
because I
agree.
think it was an impossible task.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, I don't think anybody could have done it better than they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think it was a tough task, you know, and I couldn't help but watching it thinking, wow, what would this movie have been with Chadwick Boseman opposite of Tenoch Huerta?
Yeah. Yeah.
What would that movie have been?
Okay, that said, and I think I said this maybe when we first talked about that after I had seen the movie. I walked away, and I think the most prominent thing in my head was, wow, did the let's call them the surviving actors, the people that Chad left behind for this movie, wow, did they step up? Basically the three characters just came into their own and then some. Rwanda and Shuri and Okoye. I was just blown away, and especially by Letitia Wright.
Yeah.
I never had any problem with her in the first Black Panther movie. Whatever. I guess I would not have imagined that she had that in her as an actress. I totally believed that.
Angela Bassett.
Thank you. That was terrible. Now I believed it. I mean, with her experience and everything, it's like it's in her, and it was so great that it came out. And obviously now, you know, the world sat up and took notice, and she's going to be getting some awards and stuff, you know, and accolades, you know. But I would not have really have guessed that Letitia Wright had that in her to well, you know, shoulder that movie, and she did in spades. And a lot of credit to Okoye. Give me I hate this. I can't ever think of anybody. I thought of Letitia Wright, but
Denai Guerrera.
Thank you. Thank you. That, you know, she didn't have as much given to her to do as the other two, but boy, when they hit that moment where Rwanda, you know, dresses her down, basically, that was just what a moment, just, you know, amazing. And but you're right. I think they handled his absence as well as they could, because the only other option was to recast. And I'm in the camp of I'm glad they didn't recast. I didn't want them to recast, and you know, I wanted them to move ahead.
Well, first, hi Amy, glad to see you. I agree with you on those three. I would add that I thought both Martin Freeman and Winston Duke also stepped up in the roles that they got. M'Baku and Ross were both really kind of important in the movie as well.
Yeah. Ross a little less so.
Well, there's a deleted scene that's floating around online, which is him going in and posing as a British spy to wipe Riri's computer of the tech for making the adamantium detector. And that's hilarious. That is a great scene.
Okay, I'll look forward. I'll look forward to watching that. Were you surprised about the other cameo appearance? Well, you probably heard about it before.
Yeah.
Okay, related to
Valentina de la Contessa Valentina de la Fuega.
Ross, or it's Rossi, isn't it? Or, yeah.
Ross or Mrs. Ross. By the way, it's kind of confusing that there's General Thunderbolt Ross and then there's Everett Ross. No relation.
Ross is a common name, right?
I just read a new book. Well, when I say read, I mean listened. Right. But it was Avengers. I got it here. Marvel's Avengers: Infinity War: The Hero's Journey, and it's not a long book, but it connects the dots between Civil War and Infinity War, and it follows a bunch of different characters. It's from Nebula's point of view, everything she's gone through with the Guardians.
Oh, this is fiction, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've heard about this. It's like short stories.
Yeah. So it's done in a unique way, but yeah, it's like it's the connector between the two, and it's supposed to be canon. But one of them is Ross interrogating Black Widow about why she let Cap and Bucky go at the airport in Germany. And you find out that Ross isn't a bad guy in this, but there's at one point where he's talking about General Ross, and he keeps having to go, the general, not me. And it's just it's interesting to have that come up in the book. And so if you guys are Avengers fans looking for something that's on both Audible and on Amazon,
I'll have to look into that one. It's one author, or is it multiple authors?
It's just one author. Let me see what the name is. But it's Steve Behling, Behling.
Okay, I'll look into that one.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a few of the books in that area, But I saw that on another podcast, and I'm like, I have Audible credits. Let's make that happen.
Boom.
Yep. And I was listening to it while I was working on another Jane hat from Firefly.
Look at that.
Actually, let me show you what I finished. And I have to send this to the person who's getting it.
Oh, I think I saw that one. I think I saw that last time. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I just finished it. And I just sewed the patch on.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I remember you held up the patch and kind of laid
Yeah.
it right there and said, "This is how it's going to look." That's wonderful.
So that's finished. So, all right. It's interesting because one of the things I like a lot was the post-credit scene. Because I think in a way, they did a lot of interesting things. I didn't think Shuri would be a good ruler. And they take care of that with the scene with M'Baku showing up at the Warrior Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they showed Okoye getting Ross out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know he's on the run in Secret Wars, Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion, yeah. Yeah, he's her favorite colonizer.
Yes.
Oh, no, that was Shuri's favorite colonizer.
Yeah. But no, someone else said that too.
I think it was
a colonizer in chains.
Yeah, that's what it was. They love the guy.
Yeah. So I do like that. But the fact that they have given us a young T'Challa, it's like, okay, look, we know you want T'Challa as the Black Panther. We accept that. We want T'Challa as the Black Panther. But Chadwick has passed. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to recast him. Mm-hmm. But we also want our Black Panther back. Mm-hmm. So I think they gave us the best of both worlds. They honored him, and they set up a way to have T'Challa back just as his own son, as a son.
Many years from now.
Right.
10 or more years from now.
Well, he's probably already.
They actually said how long his mother had been gone, and I think she said 6 years.
Well, she left right after the snap.
Yeah.
And we know that he got snapped, so she had to already be pregnant.
Yeah.
And the fact she left.
I think it says in there, they say you've been gone for 6 years or something like that. Like that 6 years sticks in. So the kid is about 6, I would imagine.
See, I thought he was older than that.
Oh, see, really? He seemed very young. Okay.
I would have put him like 8 or 9.
Okay. Well, like I said, give him 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But with them doing all of these young Avenger stuff, you could have a young Black Panther in the group.
I guess. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, they do time travel. We got Kang coming up. You don't know. They might do another time jump.
I say let Shuri have it for a little while longer.
Yeah.
At least another movie. I'm sure she's going to be Black Panther in, the Avengers movies coming up.
Well, a lot of what people are talking about now, because of the appearance of Val in the movie, is that they think, or the rumor I'm getting, is that the Thunderbolts movie may be the U.S. government using the Thunderbolts to try to bring down Wakanda to get the vibranium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, so she might already be in the next movie. Mm-hmm. Hey, Jamal, good to see you. So she might be in that, but that also brings an interesting fact is that the team would have Bucky on it, and Bucky considers Wakanda like a home away from home.
Yep. Well, there's some conflict for you there, right?
Yep. So, so my only problem is that I feel like, at the runtime it had, Marvel should have decided, look, we don't need to introduce Riri here. We don't need to introduce Anike, who's the other Midnight Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cut those subplots out
Mm-hmm.
because they don't do enough with them to justify, like, yes, Anika and Io are in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have spent some time showing us that, great.
Mm-hmm.
But other than the moment of her chastising her for bringing the spears,
Mm-hmm.
we really don't get any time with Anik to really make her a character.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't get much time with Riri. So if we took those out, maybe we trimmed some of the movie, make it a little better, a little, sleeker.
Mm-hmm.
You could have come up with a different reason why Namor was going after Wakanda. I mean, it probably would have been that hard to create a different MacGuffin.
See, now I think that they could have kept the vibranium detector and had it invented by Dr. Walt Newell, Stingray.
Yes, they absolutely could have used Stingray.
That's what they could have. Here's the thing about both of those things, subplot things that you're talking about. There should be no issue about introducing characters in the TV shows. We've had it over and over and over again. There's no real reason to have them, placed first in these movies, other than to just sort of draw more things, together. But Ms. Marvel completely introduced in her TV series. Moon Knight completely introduced in his TV series.
Yep. So I think Marvel should have went, look, let's just take those out.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on dealing with this issue, dealing with the loss of T'Challa, the loss of Chadwick Boseman, the shifting of power, the new everybody stepping up, dealing with what's going to happen to Queen Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like they could have trimmed it down a bit. They even could have. I mean, I guess if the Thunderbolts are involving with T'Challa or with Wakanda, then they do need Val in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like they could have trimmed quite a bit of it.
My biggest issue with the movie was with Namor in terms of I wanted a ballsier, louder Namor. I would have liked to have had the moment where he's revealed to the world, because he pretty much was acting in secret.
I think that's a future thing coming up.
Yeah, and everybody has said that to me, and I get that. It's just that I really, Namor is one of my most favorite Marvel characters, and the reason I like him is because he's so loud and ballsy, and the sad part for me is to get Imperious Rex and get it said very quietly and for literally no reason whatsoever. It just kind of came out of nowhere. There was, it's not like he was walking around spouting Latin, through the whole movie or anything. It just was like that was kind of wasted. I would have almost preferred that they just didn't bother with it at all. I mean, again, I didn't have any real issues with the background that they gave him. I understand that they wanted to connect it to a real culture on Earth. They didn't necessarily want to do an Atlantis. They wanted to do their own, take on that, and that's fine. And I really like that they leaned into the ankle wings instead of trying to hush it up or this is kind of embarrassing. They really leaned into that whole thing.
That's Kevin Feige. That's what, you don't like this? We're going to give you more of it.
Yeah. I guess in a perfect world, I would have preferred that he didn't have the thing in his nose.
That's the one thing that bothered me was the nose ring, but I got used to it.
I mean, thank goodness he had the green trunks and he had the pointed ears and he had the ankle wings and he had some of the attitude, but I wanted way more attitude, the Namor attitude. But yeah, you said what everybody else has said to me is shut up, you're gonna probably get it down the road somewhere when he fights the Fantastic Four.
Yep. Small says, I think the Riri Namor connection is justified to keep the Phase 4 introductions all in the same phase. The pandemic changed everything, every series, every show. That's fair. And Namor's war with the surface and arrogance was all I needed for his character. Yeah. Kevin Feige stays on brand no matter the adaptation. Yeah, I agree with you on the Kevin Feige. I have always impressed when Kevin Feige just doubles down on something. Trevor Slattery is such the perfect example of that.
we remember we talked about that, right?
Yeah. Oh, you hated him as the Mandarin? Well, let's put him in Shang-Chi. Oh, you liked him in Shang-Chi? Here he is coming up in Wonder Man, and everybody's happy. How does he do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. We should probably get to our other topic, the distinguished competition.
There's another topic.
Yes. The distinguished competition.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Bombshell.
Yeah. Going into James Gunn's announcement, I was thinking 3, maybe 5.
I was thinking that and very vague. Like maybe not even saying what the properties were, just saying we're going to have 2 movies and 3 TV series, and they're going to be really fun. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. And so Creature Commandos, excuse me. We're going to get what? Yeah, Creatures freaking Commandos.
And part of the universe. And I love his thing about, and if somebody does the voice in an animated thing, they're going to be the person that you see when they go into live action.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. That means whoever's playing Frankenstein is going to be a big guy.
Right. Eric Frankenstein. I love that Dr. Phosphorus is suddenly in the Creature Commandos. And Weasel.
Weasel, of course, is because of Suicide Squad he was in.
Yeah, right.
Is that Dr. Phosphorus? I wasn't sure if it was Dr. Phosphorus or if it was the Atomic Skull.
It says right there, Dr. Phosphorus. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely Dr. Phosphorus.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to see that.
It would be fun. And they said something about Rick Flag Sr. that he's going to show up in other stuff. So there you go right there. So yeah, that was I kind of like that they chose to start off with that, because it was like, and now for something completely different. Let's start with something completely different.
Which doesn't surprise me for Gunn, because that seems like exactly James Gunn stuff.
Yeah, and he wrote it.
Yeah.
So of course.
And the Waller show, it's like, well, why don't we just do Peacemaker 2? But we're going right into Waller. Okay. And it's kind of a Peacemaker 1.5.
Yeah. I don't really care much about that. So it was like, okay, 1 point for Creature Commandos, 0 points for me for Waller. I mean, I didn't ask for it. So
as of today, DC has an EGOT winner starring in one of their TV shows, because Viola Davis won the Grammy today for one of her books or whatever it is she did, which gave her the EGOT.
There you go.
Yep.
So there's one of the crossover actors. She's already been around. She's with the old stuff. So we're assuming Peacemaker is part. They're going forward. Peacemaker.
Well, he said that we're going to get a second season, but he's got too much on his plate right now to get to it.
Yeah.
So, which means that I think, because there was talk about him having another series in the works.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking it was the Waller series or the Creature Commandos.
Mm-hmm.
When this announcement happened, because I think if they weren't offered this and him a chance to do Superman, he would have gone right into Peacemaker 2, season 2.
By the way, I kind of appreciated that Gunn didn't try to brush the 4 movies that are still hanging out there coming out, didn't try to brush them under the carpet or act like they weren't important or anything like that at all. That he went through them and said, this is going to lead into this. This is the only. It's funny. He said Blue Beetle was kind of like its own thing.
Yeah.
I think he's saying like you can picture it as part of this or not bother to have it part of this.
I get the feeling that these are going to be part of it in so much that they still want us to go see them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in their mind, this all starts with Superman. Superman Legacy. Now, my only concern is they keep showing All-Star Superman artwork.
Yeah.
And I never was a fan that much of the All-Star Superman comic. So, but then I'm not a big Grant Morrison fan.
Well, you're not going to like the other big movie that they have coming out.
I know. Lanterns, oddly enough, Lanterns is the one that I'm the most excited for.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not dissing you for that. That's just very, very interesting.
Well, I am a mystery guy at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take a mystery movie over a superhero movie if I have to choose between the two. And that's saying that it's kind of True Detective.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, they're going to invest in what they're investigating is what's going to connect all these things.
Yeah.
So for me, in a way, it's kind of the whatever the big bad of the first the Gods and Monsters arc or the chapter is going to be.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get to know what that is in Lanterns, and that excites me.
What do you think the quote unquote ancient horror on Earth could be? Do you think it's going to be something from the comics something that we as comic fans already know?
Yeah, probably.
My thought was if they're doing all this like being inspired by Grant Morrison, that it's his bat demon thing that's still running around in DC Comics. I hate to say it, but I can't think of the damn name of that thing. But I don't know. That was just a thought. I wonder if it's something more classic than that. I just don't know what.
You know what it could be? Let me look this up real quick. There was an arc he did on the Justice League with Porter.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? Was it New World Order?
You know what? I remember the Dark Side story. It was
one with Aquaman, and they had to go into the past, I think it was, or they were dealing with the gods. And
vaguely remember. That was a long time ago, Dan. Long time ago.
Well, I mean, sure.
So no surprise that it's both John and Hal, right?
A little surprised, but pleasant surprised.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought they might skip over Hal, and I like Hal, so.
I mean, I think it's been enough time since the Ryan Reynolds movie, so Hal Jordan is back on the table, I mean, I think this is really the best of both worlds here, that you're going to pull in older classic fans with Hal, and even though John has been around since 71, I mean, I think that's going to pull in, some more recent fans. And I think, didn't he say something like we're going to see other lanterns in it?
Yeah, we're going to see, we'll see other lanterns, but it's going to be terrestrial based.
Yeah, that was a little surprising.
Yeah, the New World Order story was about aliens. I'm just trying to remember exactly what it was.
Okay. I'm assuming by saying ancient horror on Earth that it's something more, earthbound, but what do I know? Dan, here's where it all falls apart for me.
Is that the Authority?
Yeah. There's where I shut down and I tapped my fingers on my desk waiting for him to get past that part of it. And I don't understand the inclusion of this. Maybe I do a little bit, but maybe you can explain it to me.
Honestly, it surprised me as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to establish a new universe and you're basing it off of your three central tenants, your Superman, your Batman, and your Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, I don't see where the Authority fits into there.
Mm-mm.
Now, I know that he's considering it a spin-off of the Authority or of Superman.
Mm.
But yeah, I have a hard time not seeing that too. Mind you, I think it could be a very good movie because the Authority are very interesting characters.
Yes, but as their own thing.
But I was, I think, not too surprised that where he mentioned Grant Morrison and Jim Lee and these other people, the name Warren Ellis never came out of his mouth.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, he has the people, his friends, and he has the people who are. Here's my thought. Mm-hmm. It might be this thing about, you remember back when Bruce Wayne's back was broken, and it was, what was it, Jean-Claude Valley became Batman. He was Azrael, and then he was Batman. They said at that time, because people are like, "Oh, this is terrible. He's a horrible Batman, and he's killing and blah blah blah." And they said at that time, this is exactly why we're having him here as Batman, because you need to see why this is not the Batman you should want. And it was in the era where that was the kind of characters that we were getting. The only thing I can imagine is they're going to show you such a horrific, dark Justice League that we're all going to really want the real Justice League, because otherwise I don't know. I just don't get it as far as drafting them into this DCU as they're building it.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that Gunn has a unique way of doing things. So maybe he's got a plan for them, and that's their purpose.
Yeah.
Is because they're the opposite of the Justice League, it makes the Justice League relevant and needed. So
that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
I do understand this. I'm not really excited about this, but I understand what they're doing. This is Paradise Lost.
Yeah, Paradise Lost, that's one. I think they want to give a little time before they come out with the new Wonder Woman.
Yep.
So they can play in that universe by doing a Game of Thrones style Amazon thing.
Yep.
Without actually having to answer the question, who is going to be Wonder Woman? Because they're already having to deal with not doing Henry, getting a new, that it's just like, I don't think Jason Momoa moving forward as Aquaman is as locked in as it sounded during the announcement.
You did see where Gunn answered the question about the rumor about Lobo. He said clearly, Jason Momoa is not playing more than one character. He didn't say he wasn't playing Lobo, but he also said he's not playing two characters, so knock it off.
But Peter Safran did a interview more recently, and he made it sound even more vague, like they hadn't decided what Momoa is going to be doing going forward after. So I think they're still kind of dancing around certain things because they want to get these movies out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he likes playing Aquaman, right? I mean, he's never said anything against it, right?
He does, but I think and Safran said that he's always saw Aquaman as a trilogy.
Right.
Or that Momoa has always seen it as a trilogy.
Right.
But he also really loves Lobo.
Go figure. Go figure.
Yeah.
Here is where we need an entire episode just to talk about this.
This was the one point that I went, oh man.
Oh no. Okay, well, I'm done. All right. So, I'll see you next week, and
I don't like Damian Wayne.
I know you don't. I know you don't. And I respect your your dislike of Damian Wayne. I know. I think as much as I like Damian, I'm just excited that I was actually like intrigued by a Batman movie.
Yeah, I know. I
Me,
love the
the biggest
idea of
Batman fan around, and they announced this, and it was like, oh, well, okay. No, number one, I like Grant Morrison's Batman. I like Damian Wayne, and I think the most exciting thing for me is that I feel very certain that it is not going to be an ultra dark Batman because we already have one. There's no
yeah,
reason to have two ultra dark Batmans. And you know what? If I'm hoping it doesn't say, I'm hoping that I would almost like James Gunn to direct this more than the Superman movie. Safran said he hoped James would direct the Superman movie. He's
right.
writing it. I would take James either writing or directing this one, and preferably both. I think that would just be amazing. Or really bring Grant in and sit him down and really pick his brain and have him really involved, in this. I'm
Yeah,
excited. I hope we can get sort of a fun Batman movie that's still
yeah.
serious but fun.
Most of everything about that I love the idea of. I love that. And to me it kind of makes me think that the Robert Pattinson Batman is Detective Comics and this is the Batman and Robin.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's easier
Yeah.
to discern the two that way. So I don't have a problem with that. I am just not a fan of the Damian Wayne character
Hmm.
because he's that same annoying know-it-all kid that we see in everything nowadays. It's what I
Well,
didn't like about one of the things I didn't like about Last of Us.
but he's also a murderer and an assassin, and that's the whole thing is that he goes from his murderous assassin mother to go and live with his not murderer, not assassin father,
Yeah, it
and
just
therein lies the conflict.
but we've gone so long without a Robin that we're just going to skip over Dick. We're going to skip over Todd. We're going to skip over Tim and go to, or excuse me, not Todd, Jason Todd, yeah.
Hmm.
And we're just going to go straight to Damian Wayne. It's like, are these other characters going to exist?
my
Is there going to
my
be a Red Hood? And then
my
if you do
guess
that, that's a lot to ask fans to understand, or you just going to negate those characters.
No, my guess and hope is that Dick is very much a character in this, and that he is the former Robin, and he's an adult. And we have the whole. Not only does Damien, confront Bruce, but there has to be a point where he confronts Dick Grayson, and again they show how different the two Robins
Mhm.
are. No, I can imagine some really great scenes with both Batman and hopefully Dick Grayson, especially Batman. Saying, like they capture some crook and Damien says, "Okay, should I kill him now, Father?"
Yeah. Well, he's supposed
No,
to be
I
like 10,
told you we don't kill. Well,
yeah,
that's
he's supposed to be
stupid.
like 10 years old in this. So it's
Uh-huh.
not like they could cast somebody just playing a teenager,
Mhm.
oh, we got a 20-year-old. They're going to have to cast a kid.
Yeah,
And as much as the character might be fun on the comic page,
yeah.
having an actual character, a kid acting like Damian Wayne, that's rough. And I mean, you got to really look for a kid that can pull that off. Plus the physicality and all that. I think it's just asking for a mess.
This is going to sound strange coming from me, the big Marvel Studios fan, and not DC movie fan, but I feel like I want to trust them. You know what? I liked everything, pretty much everything James Gunn said, and I don't agree with him about authority, but I feel like I want to trust him, And on my other podcast that I do, we had a lot of what we talked about was the Superman movie being like the decider. If that does not work, then everything else kind of falls apart here.
Yeah.
If they can get that right and gain everybody's trust, I think this could fall into place. I'm looking forward to this. I think I'm going to invest in the DC universe now.
Do you think it's possible to make a movie that everybody likes?
No. I mean, you know what? Marvel's come close, right? Almost everybody liked name one. Endgame. Everybody liked First Avenger, right?
All right. What else we got on our list? Because we got to get through these.
Yeah, there's.
That could be a lot of fun.
I had explained this to my podcast partner because he's like more than 10 years older than me, and he's like, I don't know who that is. So
you know who would do a great job with that series?
Who?
Taika Waititi.
Yes, that's great. But here's the funny thing: Fred, who's this old guy, and he goes, I'm explaining the whole concept to him and everything, and he's like, okay, and he goes, so this is kind of like their Deadpool, and I went, oh, well, kind of, yeah. They kind of probably looked around and they said, what do we have that's kind of that we could do kind of in a Deadpool way? And it's like Booster Gold, right? Right.
Yep. Okay, is there one more?
Yes, sorry. I know we're running out of time here. No, two more. Supergirl. No interest. Sounds dumb.
It sounds like they're going to go sci-fi. It's going to be off-planet.
Yeah.
It could be good depending on who they get.
There's where James falls down again for me. He's a fan of Tom King. Not a fan of Tom King. Don't care about that one.
Okay.
And then
this one I was interested in, but figured they would get James Wan to direct it. The guy is doing Aquaman because he's a horror movie guy, and he and Peter Safran do these things together. Safran produces all of Peter Wan's horror movies, but they're talking to James Mangold about doing it.
What's the name of the guy that directed Werewolf by Night?
That's I can't pronounce. It's Michael Giannocci. He's a composer. He's mainly a composer. He's doing his first full-length film coming up. No, they're talking to James Mangold, who directed Logan, and who is directing the upcoming Indiana Jones movie. And he's chasing them, and they're talking to him about it.
Wow.
So to me, that's a pretty big get. If they get James Mangold to come on board to do Swamp Thing, it's like not direction I thought they would go, but it could be very interesting.
So my takeaway is I'm intrigued. I think that I could go and see most of this, and maybe finally things have fallen into place. I don't know.
I think it's a good start. I think we have to see. I think we got to get through this year and allow them to get these 4 movies off the plate.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll get a little more clarity.
Yeah.
I think they're being a little vague on things because they got 4 movies coming up they still want us to go see. So
and I think maybe everybody has to realize that if these are not that great, that this is not the new regime. This is the end of the old regime. And while Gunn and Safran are embracing these movies, that they have not yet been able to prove themselves, and it all hinges on Superman.
Yeah. All right, we got to wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining us, Jay, Jamal, Amy, everybody else who popped in. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we will see you guys next week. And check it out on this week on the Dan Wickline Show. Still locking in guests, but Jim is going to be joining me on Thursday. to talk about Becky Books, his line of books he puts out about stuff like role playing games from the 70s and 80s. There's a lot of great books, but we'll talk about that on Thursday.
We'll go over it.
Yeah. So take care, and we'll see you guys all next week. Have a great week.